Captain Jiwon sat in his chair on the space station high above Earth, watching the screens that showed strange signals coming from deep space. The signals had been coming for 3 days now, and they were all the same message over and over again. Every government on Earth got the same message, but nobody seemed to care very much about it. The message was not very long, but it was clear. It said, "Surrender now, or we will destroy everything you have. You have 7 days from Earth to do what we say." Most people who heard about this message just laughed and said it was some kind of joke. Some government leaders thought maybe another country was trying to scare them. Other people said it must be some smart computer person playing tricks on everyone. Only a few smart people like Dr. Mina thought the message might be real. She worked in a big laboratory where she studied signals from space. She had been working day and night trying to figure out more about these strange signals. She wanted to know where they came from and who was sending them to Earth. Dr. Mina had special computers that could break down the signals into smaller pieces. When she did this, she found something that made her very worried. The signals were not coming from Earth or anywhere near Earth. They were coming from very far away in space where no human had ever been before. The signals were also very strong, which meant whoever was sending them had very powerful machines. She tried to tell other scientists about what she found, but most of them did not believe her. They said it was impossible for anyone to send signals from so far away. They also said that if there really were other people in space, they would have found Earth a long time ago. Dr. Mina knew they were wrong, but she could not prove it yet. Meanwhile, far away in the dark, empty space between stars, something huge was moving toward Earth. It was not just one ship, but thousands and thousands of ships all flying together like a big cloud of metal and lights. Each ship was bigger than the biggest cities on Earth. The ships had weapons on them that could destroy entire mountains with one shot. The leader of these ships was a creature that did not look anything like a human. His name was not important because humans could not say it anyway. What was important was that he had been fighting wars for many years and had won every single one. His people had taken over hundreds of worlds and made all the people on those worlds do what they wanted. This alien leader felt very sure that taking over Earth would be easy. His people had been watching Earth for many months, and they saw a planet where people fought with each other all the time. They saw that humans had weapons, but they were not very good weapons compared to what the aliens had. They also saw that the people of Earth could not work together very well, but the aliens missed something very important while they were watching Earth. They looked at the surface of the planet and counted the weapons they could see. They watched the armies and the navies and the air forces. They saw the nuclear weapons that humans had built. But they did not look hard enough at what humans were really doing in the empty spaces around their planet. Hidden in the dark places, where no one would think to look, humans had been building something amazing. They had been working on it for many years in complete secret. Only a few people knew about it, and they never talked about it with anyone else. It was so secret that most governments did not even know it existed. The project had a simple name. It was called Guardian. The people who worked on Guardian knew that someday Earth might need to defend itself against something from space. They did not know when it would happen or what it would look like, but they wanted to be ready. Engineer Soman was one of the people who worked on Guardian. She had spent her whole adult life building the machines and computers that would protect Earth. She knew every part of the system and how it all worked together. She also knew that if the day ever came when Earth needed Guardian, it would have to work perfectly the first time because there might not be a second chance. As the 7th day came closer, people around the world started to pay more attention to the strange message from space. Some people were scared and tried to hide in safe places. Other people said it was still just a trick and nothing would happen. Most people just went about their normal lives because they did not know what else to do. The alien fleet kept getting closer to Earth. Their leader was already planning how he would divide up the planet among his officers. He thought about which cities he would destroy first to show humans how powerful he was. He never imagined that the humans might be planning something too. On the morning of the 8th day, when the alien deadline had passed, the sky above Earth began to change. Most people did not notice it at first because the changes were small, but Dr. Mina saw it on her instruments. The signals from space were getting much stronger, which meant the aliens were very close now. Captain G1 got a message on his space station that made him sit up straight in his chair. It was a message he had been waiting to receive for many years, even though he hoped he would never get it. The message had just 2 words, but they changed everything. It said, "Guardian activate." All around the solar system, other people got the same message. They were people who had been waiting and preparing for this day. They had spent years learning how to use weapons and machines that most humans did not even know existed. Now it was time to show the aliens that they had made a very big mistake when they decided to threaten Earth. The aliens were about to learn that humans were not as helpless as they looked. They were about to discover that sometimes the prey can become the hunter. Most importantly, they were about to find out that when humans are backed into a corner and have no choice but to fight, they can be the most dangerous creatures in the entire galaxy. The morning sun was just coming up over the city of Seoul when everything changed forever. People were walking to work and children were going to school just like any other day. Then someone pointed up at the sky and screamed. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked up to see something that should not have been possible. Huge dark shapes were blocking out the sun. The shapes were so big that they covered entire neighborhoods with their shadows. They were ships, but they were nothing like any ship that humans had ever built. Each one was easily as big as a mountain, and they had strange lights running along their sides. The ships made no sound at all as they hung in the air above the city. News reporter Hyun was getting ready to do her morning show when her cameraman grabbed her arm and pointed outside. She could not believe what she was seeing. She had been a reporter for 20 years and had seen many amazing things, but nothing had prepared her for this. Her hands were shaking as she told her cameraman to start filming right away. Within minutes, Hyun was broadcasting live to the entire world. Her voice was not as steady as usual because she was trying not to show how scared she felt. She described the massive ships that were now hanging over Seoul like giant storm clouds. She told her viewers that the ships were completely silent and that no one knew what they were or where they had come from. But Hyun was not the only reporter seeing these ships. All around the world, the same thing was happening. Giant alien ships were appearing over every major city on Earth. They appeared over New York and London and Tokyo and Moscow and every other big city. It was like they had been planned to arrive at exactly the same time everywhere. The ships did not attack right away. They just hung there in the sky like they were waiting for something. People in the streets were pointing and taking pictures with their phones. Some people were running away in fear while others just stood and stared. No one knew what to do because nothing like this had ever happened before in human history. Then something even more frightening happened. Every television and radio and computer on Earth suddenly turned on by itself. Even devices that were turned off started working and showing the same thing. A face appeared on every screen, and it was not a human face. The creature that appeared had skin like gray leather and eyes that were much bigger than human eyes. When it spoke, its voice came out of every speaker on the planet at the same time. It spoke in perfect English and Chinese and Spanish and every other language that humans used. Somehow it knew how to speak to everyone in their own language. Leski, alien leader, said that humans had been given 7 days to surrender, but they had chosen to ignore the warning. He said this was a mistake that would cost them everything they had. He told the people of Earth that his fleet had conquered many worlds, and that Earth would be just another easy victory for his people. But as the alien leader was making his speech, something strange was happening in secret places around the world. In underground bunkers and hidden military bases, people were getting ready for something. These were not ordinary soldiers or politicians. These were people who had been waiting for this exact moment for many years. General Dowen was in a bunker, deep under a mountain when the alien ships appeared. He had been expecting this day since he was a young officer. He looked at the screens showing the alien ships, and then he looked at his staff. Everyone in the room had the same look on their faces. They were not surprised or scared. They looked ready. The general picked up a red phone that connected him to other secret bases around the world. When someone answered, he said just 3 words. He said, "Guardian is live." Then he hung up the phone and waited for the next part of the plan to begin. Dr. Mina was still in her laboratory studying the alien signals when the ships appeared. She had been right all along about the aliens being real, but she did not feel good about being right. She looked at her computers and saw something that made her feel a little bit better. The alien signals were strong, but they were also predictable. She could see patterns in them that might be weaknesses. She quickly wrote down everything she could figure out about the alien technology and sent it to people she knew in the military. She hoped that someone would be able to use the information to help defend Earth. She did not know that the people getting her information had been preparing to use it for a very long time. All around Earth, the alien ships began to power up their weapons. Lights started flashing along the sides of each ship, and energy began building up in what looked like gun ports. The alien leader wanted to destroy a few cities first, to show humans that resistance was hopeless. He picked the biggest cities because destroying them would kill the most people and create the most fear. But as the alien ships prepared to fire their first shots, something unexpected started happening. Deep in space where no one could see them, machines that had been hidden for decades began to wake up. These machines had been built by humans, but they were unlike anything most humans had ever seen. The alien leader was about to give the order to fire when his officers started reporting strange readings on their instruments. Energy signatures were appearing all around the fleet, but they were not coming from Earth. They were coming from empty space where nothing should have been able to hide. The aliens had studied Earth for months and thought they knew everything about human technology. They had seen the weapons on the surface and counted the nuclear missiles. They thought they understood exactly how strong Earth's defenses were. But they had missed the most important thing of all. Humans had not put their best defenses where anyone could see them. They had hidden them in the one place where no enemy would think to look. They had put them in the empty darkness of space itself, where they could wait patiently for the day when Earth would need them most. That day had finally come, and the aliens were about to discover that they had made the biggest mistake of their lives. Commander Junho sat in his control chair deep inside what looked like a large asteroid floating between Mars and Jupiter. But this asteroid was not made of rock and metal like other asteroids. This asteroid was hollow inside and filled with the most advanced technology that humans had ever built. It was one of dozens of secret bases that had been hidden throughout the solar system for the past 50 years. Junho looked at the screens in front of him that showed the alien fleet surrounding Earth. He had been preparing for this moment his entire adult life. His father had worked on the Guardian project before him, and his grandfather had helped start it when it was just an idea. 3 generations of his family had dedicated their lives to protecting Earth from threats that might come from space. The aliens thought they had surprised Earth, but they were wrong. Humans had been expecting visitors from space ever since they first learned how to build rockets and fly to the moon. Smart people knew that if humans could travel in space, then other creatures probably could too. They also knew that not all of those creatures would be friendly. Engineer Somin was working at a control station not far from Commander Junho. She had spent the last 20 years of her life building and maintaining the Guardian platforms. She knew every wire and every computer chip in the massive weapons that were hidden around the solar system. She also knew that today would be the day when all of her hard work would finally be put to the test. The Guardian platforms were not just weapons. They were marvels of human engineering that could do things most people would think were impossible. Each platform was bigger than a city and carried enough firepower to destroy an entire moon. But more importantly, each platform was completely invisible to anyone who did not know exactly where to look for them. The aliens had spent months studying Earth, and they thought they knew everything about human technology. They had counted the nuclear weapons and measured the strength of human armies. They had looked at human spaceships and decided they were primitive and weak. But they had never looked for weapons that were designed to be completely hidden from view. Every Guardian platform was controlled by an artificial intelligence that could think faster than any living creature. These computer brains had been programmed by the smartest humans who ever lived. They knew every possible way that an enemy might attack Earth, and they had a plan for dealing with each one. The aliens made their first big mistake when they assumed that humans would fight the same way that other creatures had fought when their planets were invaded. Most species tried to negotiate or surrender when they saw how powerful the alien fleet was. Some species fought back, but they always tried to defend their home planet from its surface. Humans were different. They had learned from thousands of years of warfare on their own planet. They knew that the best way to win a fight was not always to defend, but sometimes to attack first and attack hard. They also knew that the best place to fight a space battle was not on a planet but in space itself, where they would have room to move around. As the alien commander prepared to demonstrate his power by destroying human cities, his officers started reporting impossible readings on their instruments. Energy signatures were appearing all around the fleet. At first there were just a few readings, but then there were dozens and then hundreds. Soon the alien sensors were showing energy sources everywhere they looked. Dr. Mina was watching the alien signals from her laboratory on Earth. She had been right about the aliens having predictable technology. Their ships were powerful, but they used energy in ways that created patterns. Once she understood the patterns, she could predict what the aliens would do next. More importantly, she could figure out how to disrupt their systems. She sent her findings to the Guardian commanders who had been waiting for exactly this kind of information. Within minutes, every Guardian platform in the solar system had been updated with new data about alien weaknesses. The artificial intelligences running the platforms immediately began calculating the best ways to use this information in battle. Captain Jiwan was still on his space station above Earth, but now he was not just watching alien signals. He was watching as Guardian platforms all around the solar system came online and revealed themselves for the first time. What had looked like empty space just minutes before was now full of massive human weapons that had been waiting patiently for this moment. The alien commander felt his first moment of real doubt as his tactical officers struggled to understand what their sensors were telling them. The readings showed that somehow the primitive humans had managed to surround the entire alien fleet with advanced weapons. This should have been impossible, but the evidence was right there on every screen. Creaking. Aliens had made their second big mistake by positioning their ships to intimidate the humans, rather than to fight a real battle. Their formation looked impressive and scary, but it was actually very bad for defense. The ships were spread out all around Earth where they could not help each other if they came under attack. Young pilot Nari was getting ready to launch from a hidden base on the far side of the moon. Her fighter ship looked small compared to the giant alien vessels, but it was packed with technology that the aliens had never seen before. Her ship could move faster than anything in the alien fleet, and its weapons could punch through the strongest alien armor. Nari was not alone. Hundreds of other pilots were getting ready to launch from bases that had been hidden all over the solar system. Some bases were built inside asteroids while others were hidden in the shadows of planets and moons. The aliens had been so focused on Earth that they had never bothered to look for bases in other places. As the final preparations were made for what would become the shortest space battle in history, the alien commander gave the order for his ships to open fire on Earth. He expected to see human cities disappear in flashes of light. Instead, he saw something that would haunt him for the rest of his very short life. The Guardian platforms fired first. The alien commander had conquered 43 worlds during his long military career. He had seen every type of defense that living creatures could create. He had faced enemies with powerful weapons and enemies with clever tactics. He had always won because his fleet was simply too strong for any planet to resist. But as he looked at his tactical displays, he saw something that made his blood run cold. The energy readings surrounding his fleet were not just strong, they were overwhelming. Somehow the humans had managed to hide weapons in space that were more powerful than anything his people had ever built. Even worse, the weapons were positioned perfectly to attack his ships from every direction at once. Colonel Taiho was deep inside an asteroid that had been turned into a fortress. He had been waiting in this cold, dark place for 15 years, knowing that someday aliens might come to threaten Earth. Now that day had finally arrived, and he felt strangely calm. He had trained for this moment so many times that activating the Guardian systems felt as natural as breathing. All around the solar system, other commanders just like Taiho were doing the same thing. Hidden bases that had looked like ordinary asteroids and space debris suddenly came to life. Massive weapons platforms that had been disguised as harmless rocks revealed themselves as humanity's greatest achievement in military engineering. Each Guardian platform carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon, but that was not the most impressive thing about them. The most impressive thing was how well they worked together. Every platform was connected to every other platform by communication systems that worked faster than light itself. When one platform spotted a target, every other platform knew about it instantly. The aliens tried to respond to this new threat, but they quickly discovered another problem. Their ships were designed to attack planets, not to fight against enemies in space. Most of their weapons were built for shooting down at a planet's surface, not for fighting battles between spaceships. This meant they could not use their full firepower against the Guardian platforms. Young pilot Nari launched from her hidden base and immediately saw why the aliens were in so much trouble. Their huge ships might have looked scary when they were hanging over Earth cities, but in a real space battle they were too big and too slow to defend themselves properly. Her small, fast fighter could fly circles around them while hitting them with precise weapons fire. Nari was not alone in space. Thousands of other human pilots had launched at the same time from bases all over the solar system. The aliens had never seen human fighters like these because they had been built in secret, using technology that did not exist when the aliens first studied Earth. These fighter ships used engines that could make them accelerate faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. They also had weapons that could change direction in flight and hit targets from impossible angles. Most importantly, they were piloted by humans who had grown up playing video games and flying simulators that had taught them to think in 3 dimensions. The alien commander ordered his largest ships to fire on the Guardian platforms, but his crews quickly learned that this was a mistake. The platforms were not just heavily armed, they were also incredibly well protected. Energy shields that could absorb the power of an exploding star surrounded each platform, making them nearly impossible to damage. What made things even worse for the aliens was that the Guardian platforms had point defense systems that could destroy incoming attacks before they reached their targets. Every missile or energy beam that the aliens fired was met by dozens of defensive weapons that tore it apart long before it could do any damage. Sergeant Borum led a team of soldiers onto one of the smaller alien ships that had been disabled by fighter attacks. She wanted to capture some aliens alive so that humans could learn more about where they came from and whether more aliens might be coming to Earth later. The inside of the alien ship was dark and filled with strange smells. Borum and her team moved carefully through corridors that were built for creatures much taller than humans. They found that the aliens were not as tough as their technology made them seem. When they had to fight without their advanced weapons, they were actually weaker than human soldiers. This was something the aliens had not expected. They were used to fighting enemies who surrendered as soon as they saw how powerful the alien technology was. They had never had to face enemies who were willing to board their ships and fight them hand to hand in their own corridors. As the battle continued, more and more alien ships were destroyed or disabled. The aliens tried to retreat, but they found that the humans had planned for this too. Fast attack ships were waiting at the edges of the solar system to intercept any aliens who tried to escape. Lieutenant Kyung was piloting one of these intercept ships. Her job was to make sure that no alien vessel escaped to tell other aliens about what had happened at Earth. This was important because humans did not want other alien species to know how strong Earth defenses really were. It was better to let them think Earth was still a weak planet that could not defend itself. The alien commander watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by weapons he had never imagined could exist. Ships that had taken decades to build were destroyed in seconds by human technology that seemed to come from nowhere. His officers were reporting damage and casualties from every part of the fleet. In desperation, the alien commander tried to ram one of his largest ships into Earth itself. If he could not conquer the planet, maybe he could at least damage it enough to make the humans suffer. But even this final desperate attack was stopped by the Guardian platforms, which destroyed his ship while it was still millions of miles away from Earth. The battle that was supposed to be an easy victory for the aliens had become their worst nightmare. In less than 30 minutes, their fleet had been reduced to scattered debris floating in space around Earth. The few aliens who were still alive found themselves prisoners of a species they had completely underestimated. The humans had not just won the battle, they had won it so completely that it sent a message throughout the galaxy. Earth was not a weak planet that could be easily conquered. It was a fortress world protected by technology and defended by creatures who would fight to the death to protect their home. News of the battle spread quickly through space, as other alien species who had been watching Earth realized they had made a serious mistake in their evaluation of human capabilities. The species that everyone thought was primitive and helpless had just destroyed one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy without breaking a sweat. Within the first 5 minutes of the battle starting the alien fleet, Commander knew that something had gone terribly wrong. This was not supposed to be a real fight. It was supposed to be a demonstration of alien power that would make the humans surrender immediately. Instead, his ships were being destroyed faster than his officers could report the damage. Captain Sunho was coordinating the attack from the primary Guardian platform, which was hidden inside what looked like a small moon. From his position, he could see the entire battle unfolding exactly as the human strategists had planned it years before. Every alien ship was exactly where the humans had expected them to be, and every Guardian platform was performing exactly as designed. The aliens had made the mistake of thinking that space battles were about having bigger ships and more powerful weapons. Humans had learned from their own history that battles were won by superior planning and better tactics. Size and power meant nothing if you could not hit your target, or if your enemy could hit you first from unexpected directions. The Guardian platforms were not just shooting at the alien ships randomly. They were using artificial intelligence systems to target the most important parts of each alien vessel. Instead of trying to destroy entire ships with brute force, they were targeting engines and weapons and command centers with surgical precision. This meant that many alien ships were disabled rather than destroyed. The humans wanted to capture as much alien technology as possible so they could study it and learn how to defend against future attacks. They also wanted to capture aliens alive so they could question them about other threats that might be coming toward Earth. The alien commander tried to use his communications equipment to call for help from other alien fleets that were conquering planets in nearby star systems. But he quickly discovered that his communications were being jammed by human technology that he did not understand. Every time he tried to send a message, it was blocked or redirected by Guardian systems. Sergeant Borum was leading her third boarding mission of the day. Her team had already captured 2 alien ships and taken dozens of alien prisoners. She was amazed by how easy it was to defeat the aliens once they were separated from their advanced technology. Without their powerful ships and energy weapons, they were actually weaker than human soldiers. The aliens relied too much on their technology and not enough on physical training or tactical thinking. When human soldiers boarded their ships and forced them to fight hand-to-hand, the aliens were completely unprepared. Many of them surrendered immediately, rather than try to fight against trained human warriors. This was teaching the humans something very important about their enemies. The alien civilization was old and powerful, but it had become soft and lazy. They were used to winning battles with overwhelming technological superiority. They had forgotten how to fight when the odds were even or when they faced enemies who were more clever than they were. Young pilot Nari had already shot down 6 alien fighters and was looking for more targets. Her small ship was so much faster and more maneuverable than anything the aliens had that the battle felt almost unfair. She could attack alien ships from angles they could not defend against and then disappear before they could shoot back at her. The aliens had built their ships to be as large and intimidating as possible. They wanted their enemies to see the ships and feel afraid. But in a real battle, size was actually a disadvantage. Large ships were easy targets that could not dodge attacks or hide from enemy sensors. Human ships were built to be fast and hard to hit. They were also built to work together, in groups where each ship could protect the others. When alien ships tried to fight against human fighter squadrons, they found themselves outnumbered and outmaneuvered by enemies they could barely see on their sensors. Lieutenant Kyung was patrolling the outer edge of the battle area where she was supposed to intercept any alien ships that tried to escape. So far, she had destroyed 3 ships that were trying to flee back to wherever they had come from. Her orders were simple: make sure no alien left the solar system alive to report what had happened. This was important because the humans did not want other alien species to know the truth about Earth defenses. If word got out that Earth was heavily defended, other aliens might decide to work together to attack in larger numbers. It was better to let them think that Earth was still weak, so they would continue to attack in small groups that could be easily destroyed. The alien commander was running out of options as more and more of his ships were destroyed or captured. He had started the day commanding a fleet of thousands of powerful warships. Now he had less than 100 ships left, and most of those were damaged and trying to retreat. In desperation, he ordered his remaining ships to fire all their weapons at Earth itself. If he could not conquer the planet, maybe he could at least damage it enough to hurt the humans. But even this final desperate attack failed, as Guardian platforms intercepted every shot before it could reach Earth atmosphere. Dr. Mina was watching the battle from her laboratory and collecting data about alien technology. She was amazed by how predictable the alien weapons and tactics were. Everything they did followed patterns that human computers could easily analyze and counter. It was like they had never fought against enemies who could think as fast as their machines. The aliens had conquered many worlds, but they had apparently never faced enemies who were as adaptable and creative as humans. Every time the aliens tried a new tactic, the Guardian systems immediately developed a counter-tactic. The artificial intelligence systems controlling the Guardian platforms were learning and adapting faster than the alien commanders could think. As the battle entered its final phase, the few remaining alien ships were completely surrounded by human forces. Guardian platforms were shooting at them from long range while human fighters attacked them from close up. Boarding parties were capturing the ships that were only damaged, while the ships that fought back were destroyed completely. The alien commander realized that he had one last chance to escape. His flagship was faster than most of his other ships, and it still had enough weapons to fight its way through the human forces. He ordered his crew to prepare for a desperate run toward the edge of the solar system, where they might be able to jump to faster than light speed, but the humans had planned for this too. As soon as the alien flagship started to move toward the edge of the battle area, it was met by a concentrated attack from dozens of Guardian platforms and hundreds of human fighters. The ship was torn apart by weapons fire before it could travel, more than a few thousand miles. The battle was over. What had started as an alien invasion had become a complete disaster for the attackers. The humans had not just won, they had won so overwhelmingly that it would be talked about throughout the galaxy for generations to come. The few aliens who survived the battle found themselves prisoners on a world they had thought would be easy to conquer. They would spend the rest of their lives helping humans understand alien technology and alien civilizations. Their invasion had failed completely, but their knowledge would help Earth prepare for whatever other threats might come from the stars. 3 days after the battle ended, the people of Earth were still trying to understand what had happened. The alien ships that had seemed so frightening were now just pieces of metal floating in space around their planet. The creatures that had threatened to destroy human civilization were now prisoners who spent their time answering questions about the galaxy beyond Earth. Admiral Hana stood before cameras that broadcast her image to every country on Earth. She had been chosen to explain to the world how humanity had prepared for this moment. For 50 years, the Guardian Project had been the most secret military program in human history. Now it was time for everyone to know the truth. She told the world that the smartest scientists and engineers from every nation had worked together to build the Guardian platforms. They had used technology that was decades ahead of anything most people knew existed. They had also used resources from every major government on Earth, even though most of those governments did not know what they were paying for. The Guardian Project had been started by people who believed that someday Earth would encounter other intelligent species. Some of those species might be friendly, but others might be hostile. The people who started Guardian wanted to make sure that if hostile aliens ever came to Earth, they would find a planet that could defend itself. Dr. Wanho was in charge of questioning the alien prisoners. He had learned to speak several alien languages by studying the communications that had been intercepted during the battle. The aliens were very surprised that humans could learn their languages so quickly. They had thought that human intelligence was much lower than it actually was. From talking to the prisoners, Dr. Wanho learned that the galaxy was full of intelligent species. Most of them knew about each other, and many of them traded goods and information. Earth had been discovered by alien scouts many years ago, but most aliens had decided that humans were too primitive to be worth bothering with. The alien fleet that had attacked Earth was not sent by all the alien civilizations. It was sent by just one species that made money by conquering planets and selling the people who lived on them as slaves. These aliens had thought that Earth would be easy to conquer because humans seemed weak and divided. But news of the battle was already spreading throughout the galaxy. Other alien species were learning that the humans they had ignored were actually much more dangerous than anyone had realized. A species that everyone thought was primitive had just destroyed a powerful military fleet in less than an hour. Young engineer Yunji was working with a team that was studying captured alien technology. She was amazed to discover that in many ways human technology was actually more advanced than alien technology. The aliens had more powerful energy sources, but humans had better computers and more efficient designs. The alien ships were big and powerful, but they were also wasteful and inefficient. Human engineers could build ships that were smaller and faster, while using less energy and carrying more weapons. This meant that even if aliens came back with bigger fleets, humans would still have important advantages. More importantly, the aliens seemed to have stopped trying to improve their technology many years ago. They had become comfortable with their superiority over other species and had stopped innovating. Humans, on the other hand, were always trying to build better and more efficient machines. Captain Jiwon was now in command of a new space station that was being built near the moon. This station would be the headquarters for Earth's new Space Defense Force. Instead of hiding their military capabilities, humans had decided to show the galaxy that Earth was ready to defend itself against any threat. The new space station would be much larger than anything humans had built before. It would have weapons that could destroy entire fleets and defenses that could stop any attack. But it would also have laboratories and meeting rooms where humans could work with friendly aliens who wanted to trade or share knowledge. Within weeks of the battle ending, other alien species began sending messages to Earth. These were not threats or demands for surrender. These were offers of friendship and trade agreements. The galaxy had learned that Earth was not a weak planet that could be easily conquered, but a strong world that could be a valuable ally. Some of the messages came from species that had been enslaved by the same aliens who had attacked Earth. These species wanted to thank humans for destroying their oppressors and wanted to form alliances for mutual defense. They had been waiting for someone strong enough to stand up to the slave-trading aliens. Other messages came.